Hi there, welcome to another edition of Eye on Medfield. My name is Ed Doherty and I'm your host. And today I have a repeat group, a very special group. They're known as the Comfort Zone, and some of you may recall them because they were on a couple of years ago and we got some very positive feedback from a lot of folks in town saying what a wonderful program that is. And that leads me to doing a little bit of a editorial comment, if I might. I've been a volunteer here at Medfield TV for 13 years. And over those years, I've interviewed a lot of groups for fundraising, in need of volunteers, trying to help a cause or whatever. And I have noticed seems to be a direct correlation between the quality of the person who's the manager or the director of the group and the success of the group itself. And such is the case with Comfort Zone. On my left is a guest that was here before, the program manager for Massachusetts, Sue Opici. Sue, good to have you here again.
Oh, thanks so much.
Sue, of all the people I have met in my 13 years, is probably the most caring, the most enthusiastic, the hardest working, and the most helpful person I deal with on any of these groups. These kids are like kids to her, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Actually, we have several of the kids who are in her program here today to talk about it, including Betsy O'Grinch, who's sitting right with us now, and she'll be back to tell us a little bit. But before we talk about that, Sue, I was wondering if you could just take a few minutes to tell us about Comfort Zone. I understand it's basically a group for children who've lost a parent. How does
A parent or a sibling.
A parent or a sibling.
Or a sibling. Parent, guardian, or a sibling.
Yeah.
And it's a bereavement program.
Yes.
And it's based around a camp concept.
Yes.
Where the kids come and they meet each other. And
Yeah.
we do all kinds of camp activities, but we also have healing activities
So,
for them.
About how many kids are there that would?
Depending on our program, it
Yeah.
could be anywhere from 25 or it could be 65, even 70
And they
campers.
actually go to a camp.
That's right, yes,
Yeah.
out on the Cape in Camp Burgess.
Yeah. And that you have a full program for them for the week, or?
We do, it's the weekend, it starts on a Friday night and it goes until Sunday.
Yeah.
And we pretty much start as soon as they show up and we keep going until Sunday, and the parents usually show up saying, oh my gosh, what happened here?
Right.
I just dropped them off.
Do the parents get a chance to see what happens there, or do they just kind of leave them and they do?
They do. We start with a program on Friday night where they have dinner together.
Yes.
Then they leave, and then they come back on Sunday and we have a memorial service, and that's where
Yeah.
the entire camp, meaning the campers and
That's
the
going to
volunteers.
be very touching.
It's amazing. It's the campers and the volunteers, along with the parents and guardians and family members, come together, and the campers and their big buddies and their Healing Circle members.
What a great concept.
Put on, I don't know, what would you call it? Sort of
A
just-
memorial
it is a
service
memorial-
works.
It's their way of
Yeah.
commemorating their loved one.
Yeah.
And so sometimes
that's terrific. And the kids stay overnight.
they do.
They
They
have
stay in
tents or
cabins.
Buildings
Cabins.
or
Cabins.
Cabins.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about how does it really go when you're at the camp?
Oh, geez. There's a lot of laughing.
Yes.
There's a lot of activity and fun and just silly repeat after me songs, as well as making s'mores.
Is it pretty much like a regular camp except that it has this added element?
It is.
I mean, do they play soccer or something like that ever? Or?
Sure. And during the summer, they go swimming or
Yeah.
kayaking or
Yeah.
on pontoon boats. But then there's also the Healing Circles, which the kids can anticipate because they know what the schedule is, where they meet with their group.
Yeah.
And it's led by a Healing Circle leader, which is...
Is the group by age or by what?
It is, yes. Yes, so that they're with peers. So
And they can kind of share the things that they've been through with other kids their age.
Yes, and some of the kids have been to camp before,
Yeah.
and some are brand new. So oftentimes the campers who are returning are modeling or kind of encouraging and also helping
Yeah.
the brand new campers.
Which has got to be the first time through. You got to be kind of, what's this all about? What's going to happen? Because
Yes.
it's a very different experience.
It is, and it's oftentimes the first time the camper has ever shared their story with someone.
That's
So
got to be interesting too, you know.
it is, and that's why it's so important that they're with other people, other kids who have gone through something similar.
Yes, yeah. I think I remember one of your campers telling me that you make an effort to meet every camper or everybody in the program in the course of a year. Is that still true, or is it getting too big?
Well, I meet every single volunteer
Mhm.
because they're trained,
Yes.
and then they're matched up with a little buddy, which is also the camper.
Yeah.
So I meet every single volunteer. Every camper I meet at camp too,
Yes.
but not necessarily ahead of time. But what we do have is what we call an intake process,
Right.
where it's a warm, friendly welcome that either our intake coordinator or some of our volunteers who are assisting the intake coordinator will call every single family,
Yeah.
call the parent or guardian, and talk through some of the questions
Right.
to best support and set their child up for success for the weekend and make sure it's the right time for the child to go.
Very thorough then.
It is,
You
and
know.
that's where it's sort of a team.
But you have to be sensitive, don't you?
Yeah, and compassionate and
Yes.
fun and a great
and
listener.
you are. You're the perfect role
Thank you.
model for that, really.
Thanks.
You know, that's great. Now, in terms of the next camp coming along, it's going to be next year. Or the fundraiser you're actually going to have is this year
It is.
in
It's our-
November
Yep.
in Medfield.
in Medfield, here in Medfield.
And you had one here before.
We did. This is our third year here in Medfield. Medfield is so supportive of our program.
I would hope so. I really would
and
hope so.
The
you
town
know.
really did open up and welcome us. The selectmen, the school system, it's even the student body, the student council
Yeah.
assisted us along the way. So yes,
Wow.
Medfield's been kind of the perfect place for us because it's so much like our camp.
It's. I have to agree with you. There's a lot of good people in Medfield. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear they are supporting your cause, because it's so deserving, you know.
Thank you.
And perhaps, Betsy, you could tell us a little bit about what it's really like at the camp. Not that you weren't telling us what it's really like, but what it is firsthand experience, because you have been more than once, right?
I've been quite a few times by now. I want to say 3, 4?
Four.
I've been 4 times at least by now.
And
Everything Sue said was accurate.
yeah, and now your mother has also been kind of involved, right? Well, she takes you down there, and is she a volunteer, or is she just?
She's not. She is not a volunteer.
But she's pretty familiar with the camp, and she knows how you react
Yeah,
to how the camp is. She's with us today,
she is.
and I wonder if she'd be willing to come out and talk to us for a few minutes about the camp itself and life at the camp and the things you do to get in trouble.
There's really no way to get in trouble at Comfort Zone.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with Betsy and her mom, and they're going to tell us a little bit about the real Camp Comfort and her firsthand experiences there. And then we have some other guests that are going to be joining us in a few minutes, just to give you a total idea of what a wonderful, wonderful camp this is, and what a great concept. And I couldn't be more supportive of anything we do than what these guys do. You know, if you can imagine being, I can't imagine, but if you can imagine being like a 10-year-old girl or a 10-year-old boy, and you lose a sister or a brother or your father, you lose your dad. He might be your coach. He might be the guy who taught you how to play ball or skate. And all of a sudden, he's not in your life anymore. It's got to be a tremendous void. And it's got to be something that the average person like you and me, we probably can't really identify with. But these kids, they get together, they talk their way through these things. And the idea that somebody had to bring these kids together is such a wonderful idea, and I'm so glad to see you guys are doing it. So we're going to find your mom, if we can track her down, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back. We've rounded up Lisa O'Grinch, who was Betsy's mom, and you were here before with us
Yes.
a couple of years ago, and we wanted you back again,
Well,
and
thank
you were
you.
nice enough to come back again. You guys are both from Medfield, so we thought you'd be a perfect pair to tell us a little bit more about the camp. And I guess start right from the beginning. You know, what happens when you? First of all, the camp is at the Cape, right?
Yep, it's in the Cape. Camp Burgess. It's held at Camp Burgess on the Cape.
So you drive down from here to the Cape, and off you go for
Pretty much.
a week or
A weekend. We
weekend.
get there Friday and we leave on Sunday. So as soon as we get there, it's fantastic. What we do is we sign in. There's a sign-in process. You get your T-shirt and your schedule and stuff, and then you're paired up with your big buddy.
Yeah.
And that's all taken care of ahead of time, so they figure that out for you. And it's really great.
Is a big buddy somebody your own age, or is a big buddy
It's a
counselor?
volunteer, kind
Yes.
of like a counselor, but
Yeah.
every camper has one.
Really?
So, yep. Every single camper gets a big buddy.
Yeah.
They're all volunteers. They've all been trained. And I remember my first year, I was really, really scared because this was the first camp that I was really going to like talk
Right.
about what happened with my dad. And I remember walking up, I was really nervous. And then I remember my big buddy, her name was Heather. She walked up, we started talking. I said goodbye to my mom, and I went to play, I think it was Foursquare at that camp. There's always an activity going on as soon as you arrive. So you can walk over with your big buddy. Your parents can hang around for a little while. Usually they leave. And my mom will be able to tell you what happens with them, because you get dropped off on a Friday, so that night the parents usually have dinner together
At the camp?
at the camp.
Yeah.
They leave after they have dinner
That's
with
an
each
interesting
other.
experience too, I would think.
It is. It is.
Yeah, because you all have something in common.
And that's the thing. So while the kids are sort of
You
getting
all have
immersed,
a couple of things in common.
Yeah, you know, so the kids are getting immersed in their activities and getting, kind of getting to know the other campers and their
Right.
buddies. And then the parents get together and have dinner, and we're all able to, relate to each other and talk about what it's like to parent a child who's
Yes.
grieving while you're grieving yourself, and just all the myriad challenges that go along with that. So we get as much out of it, I think, as the kids do.
That is a challenge.
Yeah.
But a great idea that you guys stick around and don't just, unload the trunk and head off
Right.
back to Medfield.
Right. Although I will say it's nice to have, like 24 hours of peace and quiet. And
What's that supposed to mean?
yeah, I know, of errands on your own. But then we go back on Sundays and pick the kids up.
And we have the memorial service.
Yeah.
You guys are there for that. So in between when we get dropped off on Friday and when we get picked up on Sunday, every camper is part of a healing circle. We talked about that earlier. It's a group of kids who are your age, and you're paired up, your big buddies are there. It's led by a healing circle leader.
Yeah.
And you get to plan what you want to do for the memorial service, whether you want to do anything at all or just stand there and say who you're there in memory
It's
of.
not obligatory. You can do,
Nope.
you could just say, I want to be quiet, or I want to
Some-
keep this to
some kids-
myself. Or
Some kids don't want to tell their story yet, or
they're not ready.
They're not ready.
and
Some
that's-
kids aren't ready,
you
and I
you
like
have to
that.
respect that.
I like
Yeah.
that about Comfort Zone because
Yeah.
they understand that.
So when you do the memorial service, are the parents? Have you been?
Yeah, so we come back in the afternoon, the early
Sunday.
afternoon on Sunday, and you're all together, and each of the healing circles comes up as a group, and they can say who they're there in memory of. And a lot of kids, sometimes they can't even talk. They can't even say that. So the big buddy will just hold their hand and say, this is Josh, and he's here in memory of his dad or something. And the nice thing is to see that they've really kind of calibrated it for the age of the kids. I remember for little kids, they couldn't really put words to their emotions, but to express themselves, they made these balloon arrangements, and each color of the balloon stood for an emotion. So red was mad, and blue was sad, and green was confused, and yellow was happy. And they would blow up a balloon and make it the size in proportion to the way they felt those feelings. And I just thought that was so neat.
It is. What a unique idea.
Because it was something these little ones could relate to, because they had those emotions. They just needed a way to express it.
A simple way for them to express their feelings.
And they could see that other kids felt the same way. And I think that honestly is the true magic, is that Comfort Zone puts kids together who've experienced loss, and no one else understands or sees it that same way, except other kids who have experienced a similar loss. So I think there's so much power in that. And then the older kids, sometimes they sing songs, they do little poems, or anything to kind of bring to life and show the emotion that they have.
I can't imagine. That is so emotional. I'd have tears when I
Oh, well, there's plenty of
boxes of tissues.
Okay.
Boxes of tissues.
Yeah, there has to be, This is from your heart you're talking about,
Yeah.
I think they do a very good job aiming it so that the little kids have things like the balloon arrangements where they can understand and they can bond in that way. With the older kids, a couple of times that I've been, it's more for not team building, but getting connected. So yes, team building. We know that we're connected, and we make that connection deeper and stronger between each other. I know that I keep in touch with a lot of kids.
I was wondering that if you do, from once in a while, keep touch base with the kids that you met down there.
Well, actually, Comfort Zone has, it's almost like a Facebook for their community.
Oh, do you actually have a page too?
And
we do have a page, but that's not, this is a website of its own. It's geared off of Facebook.
But it's called Hello Grief, and the kids can sign in, and it's a sort of a safe place where they can continue their conversations and continue to get support. If they've had a rough day, they can post something about that, and other kids will chime in, and some of the big buddies stay involved, right? So it's really, I think that's especially good, I think, for some of the older kids.
Because it makes it easier and not as hard to
How did you find out about this?
Actually, I think we were so fortunate to be in Medfield when my husband died, because somebody from UCC had gotten a flyer about it, and they reached out to us, and also the nurse at Betsy's school, at Dale Street School, had heard about it. So their outreach was really good in terms of getting into the schools, but then it was passed directly on to us. So it was really, really thoughtful of
That's terrific.
Of them.
And it sure has been a wonderful experience for both of you, it sounds like.
It has. One thing that I want to talk about again, because Sue mentioned it earlier, it's a lot like a regular camp. We play soccer. In the summer, we go swimming or kayaking, and when it's colder, we'll walk around the camp wherever we are. We'll go for nature walks. We'll sit inside and do something else.
Do you have
fun.
campfires ever, or
yes,
cookouts or any of
a
that?
lot of times we'll have campfires. There'll be s'mores. S'mores are very fun. Sometimes the campfires are just more for we all just go and we sit and we talk, or maybe it's silent, or maybe we sing "Repeat After Me" songs, which are always making an appearance. They're always so fun. But I think it's a lot like a regular camp. So having gone there before, I'm very, very relaxed when I go there. Even the new kids, when it was my first year, you're scared because this is not what everyone considers normal. Losing a parent or a guardian or a sibling, it's not the norm.
Right.
So you feel kind of like an outsider. And when you go there, there's no outside. You're always just you're part of a group. You have something that bonds you together, and I feel like you know that throughout the entire thing, and it's a regular camp and you have fun, and then there are times when you sit in your healing circles and you cry and you talk, or maybe you just sit there and take it all in, that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest points that Comfort Zone can make, is you are not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to build on that, I think that that's the common bond, is that they've had this loss.
Yeah.
And that's established, and so it doesn't have to be anything that they sort of talk about at the outset.
Right.
It happens over the interim times during the weekend, but they can just be regular kids, and that's the nicest
That's the
thing.
nice thing about it, really, you know.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's just occasions where you just kind of fall into a conversation,
yeah.
or something comes up and it reminds you of something, and all of a sudden,
Right,
you
because they
know.
can relate to it. It's kind of like, I always say, it's sort of like finding out from somebody, oh, you know, you went to that same college, so, you know, or we grew up in the same town.
Yes.
So you have that connection,
Yeah.
but then you can move on to other subjects and
Yes.
other interests. And I think the other thing about the interests is that Comfort Zone makes such an effort, and they get fantastic volunteers, but they do a very sort of in-depth intake interview with the parents to find out what the kids' interests are, and
Right.
how they like to be, if they're very, you know, silly, or if they're serious, and that kind of thing.
That's how they pair you up with your big buddy.
And you get paired up, and I swear you get these people who are like custom made for your child.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's part of what makes it so easy to let go, because they're matched up so perfectly, and they end up having a fantastic, you know, weekend with somebody who shares their same interests and everything, so that, you know, as a parent, you can kind of let go, and you know they're going to be in great hands.
yes. And that's part of what Sue does, I guess, huh? She
Yes,
kinda-
yeah, that's part of her
I mean,
job.
that's why I'm so praiseworthy of her. She seems to be so talented, and I know she loves you too. Like,
Sue is fantastic.
She is,
know,
she is.
so-
But she's literally, I mean, multiply her by hundreds, because that's the level of professionalism, but also
Dedication.
dedication,
Empathy.
enthusiasm, all of that, all that caring for all the volunteers and all the staff,
that's
you know,
great.
at the camp.
What a wonderful experience. What a unique experience
Yes.
to call
yeah.
time out in this world and stop and see this happen, you know?
Yeah,
And
I
that's
mean, you
what
never
it
want to.
is.
Yeah, you never really want to have to know about places like this. You
No,
never
but
wish
still.
that this would happen, but once it does, it's incredibly comforting
Yeah.
to know that Comfort Zone exists, because it really is so helpful.
And the pressure's not on to get a hat trick or any of that stuff. It's just to enjoy
Yeah.
yourself, share some stories, heal yourself a little bit, help somebody else a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just a win-win situation.
Yeah,
It's so good.
yeah.
I'll have to remember when Sue gets back to ask her about the volunteers too,
Yes, yeah.
because it sounds like they're a very important role in the.
Oh, yes, because I mean, when there's a camp of 75 kids, there's 75
Yeah, that's got to
big
be.
buddies, plus there's all the support people too that make
Right.
the whole weekend happen.
And one thing that I would like to bring up is that Comfort Zone, anyone can go to Comfort Zone no matter what their situation, because it's free, isn't
It's
it?
free.
It's free for all the campers. It is
Well, it
free.
isn't free. I mean, it's free to the campers.
It's free to
but-
the campers,
Participate, yeah.
which is part of why we're here on Medfield TV today. We're actually having a fundraiser on October 19th.
Yeah.
October 19th, we're having a 5K, which I am planning to run this year.
Good
actually.
for you.
Yeah.
It's
I
to
see you
raise-
got your sneakers on.
Yeah, yeah.
You've been training this summer, huh?
It's to raise money and raise awareness and just kind of get everyone together as a community, and for people to see. Like, I know a bunch of the campers go. I myself go.
Yeah.
It's for people to see what happens, and
Yeah. But
the
it's a
people that-
fun day too.
oh, it's
There's
so fun.
little silent
Now,
auction and activities.
The day of the 5K, is that start and end in Medfield, or does it?
Yes,
It start and ends in Medfield. Yeah.
Is it at the school? I thought.
It's at the middle school.
at the junior, at the middle
it's
school.
at the middle school. It's
Yeah.
October 19th at Blake Middle School.
And are there other things going on that day besides the 5K?
There's the silent auction.
Yeah.
There's like face painting.
Who's
I mean, they do
arranging
make
all
it
of
fun.
that? Who's doing all that work?
That's Sue and her team.
Wow.
Yeah.
In addition to the camp itself, this is a fundraiser.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not the only fundraiser in the state.
Right. I mean, there's a number of them over the year. If you go to comfortzonecamp.org, there's so many ways to get
I
involved.
did, and that's a great page, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
It really is. Okay.
yeah.
Well, anything else in particular that you wanted to cover? You guys are such wonderful guests, and
Oh, thank you.
I really get the flavor of what you're doing, and I admire both of you for doing what you're
thank
doing.
you
It's
for
it's a wonderful thing,
the opportunity.
and you're helping people that are out there watching too. You know, maybe there's somebody they know, like the United Church of Christ knew for you,
Yeah.
or the middle school. You know, maybe there's somebody they know that they can say, "Gee, I saw these people on Comfort Zone, and you know, it might be good for your child
Yeah.
or whatever," and that's really spreading the word, and that can help somebody else. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to do. You want to help as many people as you can.
Yep.
So thanks again very much.
Thank you for having us.
I want you back
Yeah,
again
Thank you.
whenever we can next year for
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you.
And we'll take another time out because I think we have some more guests.
Perfect. Yeah.
It is perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Nice job.
It was nice to see you.
Nice job, really.
There's a place not so far away, a place where you don't have to keep the volume down. You'll find all sorts of creatures in this place without have to. The silly you, the proud you. You may even meet the curious you.
Tickling me! You!
Ask your parents to take you to this not so far away place. Come to the forest, where the other you lives. But first, stop by discovertheforest.org.
Okay, we're back with the O'Connor family. And sitting next to me is Laura, who is a volunteer at the camp. And she's going to be able to tell us a little bit about the role of volunteering at the camp, which we touched on in the last segment. And next to Laura is her mom, who has been involved more in the racing part of it, right? The marathons and the,
Yes.
and next to you is
My daughter, Abby.
Abby.
I've attended camp.
You've been to camp, right? And
This is
Correct.
my brother.
have you been to camp?
Yeah.
So you've all been to the camp, so you all have firsthand experience. But let me get back, Laura, to the volunteer part, because that seems to be like a dual part that's very important to the whole program. What does a volunteer do? What do you know, how did you get selected? And
Yeah, so there's many hats that the volunteers wear. You can be simply just a volunteer in the aspect of volunteering at camp and being a big buddy or being a floater, helping out around camp. With many jobs, we always need nurses or paramedics at camp that can help, and we also need social workers and people with clinical backgrounds as well to help run the healing circles and the groups that the kids
you
are
need a
part
lot of volunteers.
We do.
Well, you have sometimes as many as 75 kids. I would assume you want to be very well covered so that if anything goes wrong, you can take care of an injury or whatever happens.
Yeah, and every kid is paired with one-on-one with a volunteer, which is called their big buddy. So every camper
Now
that
you've
comes
been
to
through
camp-
that. You've been paired with
I've been paired with a little buddy, yes.
just one?
One camp.
One-on-one?
One-on-one each camp. So I've been to multiple camps, but each camp
Right.
I only have one little buddy.
Yeah. And how's that gone for you?
It's great. You see in 3-day weekend, these kids go through this whole camp and how they're very hesitant coming into camp at
Yeah.
the beginning of the weekend, and by the time they leave, most of my campers say they don't want to leave or they can't wait to come back.
Right. That's great. Now, the camper they assign you, is it somebody younger than you, or is it somebody your age, or?
So our campers are 7 to 17.
Right.
So it depends. Each volunteer can pick. They can tell Sue what age group they prefer to work with, and some people are open to all age groups. So I've had kids as young as 7 and all the way up until my oldest camper was almost 13. So, but there's campers like my sister and that are in the older groups.
But you haven't been a volunteer yet, or have you?
No.
But you've attended a couple of groups, so. yeah.
Yes, I have.
Okay. So will you be going back to this camp that's coming up, the next camp,
I will be.
as a volunteer?
If I'm matched with a camper, I will be back.
Okay. Now, also, like the day of the 5K, there's I call it a marathon. It's not really a marathon. It's just a race, I guess.
Yeah.
And you've been involved in a couple of those already, right?
Yes, I did the 5K in Medfield
what was
years
that?
ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah. And then Laura and I did back in 2010. We did the full marathon with other locations. A lot of the people came from where Comfort Zone started in Virginia.
Yeah.
That was the main team. But we were part of the Massachusetts team.
Right.
There was some people that came from New Jersey. That first year when we did the full marathon, that whole team combined of donations, we raised over $50,000.
Oh my God, that's
And
fantastic.
that was in Disney World.
Wow.
Yeah, it's down in Disney World.
Now, I would assume you need volunteers for the Medfield 5K.
Yes.
And
yes.
is they would go through the website or through Sue or through you, or how does somebody who wants to volunteer?
Sometimes I think, my mom, that's 91, she lives in Natick, and she took on the
She's
role
running?
of raffles or whatever she was doing to help out at the table. And
So there's
she
no
had a-
age limit on volunteers.
No,
huh?
and I think sometimes you find that you get those helpers from within a family,
Yes.
I think, and we did the half marathon down at Disney World too.
So
a year
it'd be
ago.
nice to have some people show up that day and help you. There's always things to be done at a marathon.
Yeah, everybody.
And there's
pitches in.
water to give out and all the kinds of.
Yep, and if
Thanks.
anybody wants to help out with the 5K, we can definitely use them if they come on the morning of the 5K. I'm sure that we can find a role for them if they're not
That would
interested
be
in
good.
running, or if they just want to make a donation, or if they just want to be part of our family events that we'll
So
have afterwards.
there'd be an entry fee like there is in any marathon.
Yep.
But you don't have to run to write a check. I mean, you could just go down and say, hey, I want to help. I want to volunteer for a couple of hours, and I'd like to leave a check.
Every little bit
That
helps.
would be welcome.
Absolutely.
Now, what time does the race start? Do you know offhand? Has it been settled?
8:30.
In the morning?
Yes. So registration will open, and then we will kick off the race shortly thereafter.
At around 9 o'clock or something like
Yes.
that. And 5K, what is that, 2 hours?
No, it's 3 miles.
3 miles.
I
So
don't know.
usually the most
3 miles
is
and
about an hour.
So it's about a half a day then, huh?
Usually we can have walkers and runners. We
Oh,
don't
yeah,
need
okay.
just runners. Usually a typical walker will finish in an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. For the race.
Really? So it's not that long. It just sounds long. Okay. Yeah. Abby, you mentioned that you've been to camp. You haven't been to counselor, but you've been to camp.
Yes.
How did camp go for you? What did you?
For camp with me,
First of all, had your sister gone first, or
no,
were you the
this
first
was
in the
our
family?
First, we all went together, me, my
Oh.
sister, and my brother. It was the first time for all of us.
I went as a volunteer, and they went as campers.
Yeah.
But it
So
was
mom got a vacation, huh?
sort of.
it was a life-changing experience for me the first time. I had absolutely no interest in going. Everyone's just going to be sad and miserable and all this, and
Yeah.
I got there, met my big buddy. Me and my big buddy are still in contact 3 years later.
Is that right? That's
Yeah.
great.
And it's just, I would love to go, again.
Yeah.
I'd go all the time if I could.
Is that
It's
much
just-
fun?
Yeah,
I would assume, just by listening to you, that someday you're going to be a volunteer,
yes, I'd like to be.
that is something you do.
Yeah.
And your brother, you liked it too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you've been, how many times have you been?
3 times.
3 times already, and so you can keep going for a little bit while. And is it, I'm sure it's a mixture of boys and girls, it's not all,
Yeah.
yeah, and they pair you up with somebody your own age, and do you room together like you have a?
Yeah.
It makes it almost like a real camp, except this other added benefit that you get of being able to share some things in common, really, Well, is there any other things that you wanted to mention to me about the race coming up here in October or volunteering?
Well, we're always looking for volunteers, so we would love if anybody is interested in volunteering that they come to our website, www.comfortzonecamp.org.
You're a
And-
lifesaver. You
hit our volunteer tab and figure out what date would work for them for a one-day volunteer training to become involved. And after they do that one-day volunteer training and they complete their background check, then they can sign up to start volunteering for camps.
Now, if you volunteer for a camp, you're going to go to the Cape, is that right?
True. For most of our camps, our 3-day camps are down the Cape.
Do they
and
stay
Sandwich.
overnight?
We do. We stay overnight for the weekend. It's just a weekend camp. But we've also this year offered some one-day camps in Milton at the Milton
that's
Public
different, huh?
Schools. So that's just a one-day, one Saturday, and it's at the Milton Public Schools.
Very good. And Mrs. O'Connor, have you been there for the, what do they call it, the final day when
closing
the memorial
ceremonies.
closing? I understand that that's quite an emotional,
It is.
a
is.
very meaningful
Yeah, and
closure.
for kids that you don't even know, and they get up and they tell their story, or they do a skit, or whatever it may be, play an instrument. You kind of have a bond
I would think
with
so.
them. You know, I mean, the tears, and it's not your own child, but the tears it's, or just, a lot of times Laura would walk in, especially the first year, and she'd look at me and she'd start crying, and then I'd start crying.
Yeah,
So
I can understand why, believe me. You know.
It's very moving.
Such a wonderful event, Well, that kind of wraps up what we can cover for now on the comfort zone. I urge all of our viewers, please consider this to volunteer in any way you can. Maybe you can help the day of the race. If you can't volunteer for one reason or another, go down and support, applaud the people that are finishing. Maybe you could just pass out some water or whatever to help these kids and all of these folks who are devoting a lot of their time to this wonderful program. And I think more important than anything sometimes is there's a lot of expense involved in what's going on here, particularly the camp with feeding everybody and all that's involved. Maybe you could write a check and you could send it to the website probably, as it tells you
The
on there.
information will be on the website. Yes.
Maybe write a check now, today, to Camp Comfort Zone. That'll help offset their expenses. Because when you're doing so, you're helping some children. You're helping some children who deserve to be helped. Children who don't have have missed something in life that we have missed, most of us. And this is a chance for them to be with others and share stories and to gain emotionally as well as physically and have fun. And what's life all about if you can't have fun? And this is an opportunity to do it. Send, if we could just send whatever you could send. This doesn't have to be a big deal unless we have some rich Medfield folks. But send what you could send to help these wonderful guys. And I admire all the things you folks do. And I thank you so much for coming down here and talking about it. You guys came all the way up from Abington today. and we appreciate it. Well, that wraps up another edition of Eye on Medfield. It's very emotional for me to be with these people because I just think the world of them, and they're so ambitious and they're so devoted to what they do and sincere, and that's it's just a very unusual group, and that's why they're so successful. Ed Doherty signing off for Eye on Medfield. Until next time, take care of each other.
Friday, there's a lot of energy going on, and kids don't know necessarily what to expect. Some are very eager to get here, and some are very eager to not be here. But you see these kids kind of walk in unsure of what they're about to get involved in, and who they're going to be matched with, or what they're going to have to do, or what they're not going to have to do. And you see some of that energy coming in. We immediately throw them to high-energy icebreaker games, where they're doing ridiculous, silly stuff. They're taking some safe risks. They're acting like a chicken or acting like a dinosaur. Start to see them open up, and they really start to show their own personalities. And then you start to see them connect with their big buddies a little bit more. Immediately Saturday, we get up, we go to breakfast. and we go right into challenge course. Kids are going to be tested and they're going to be challenged, and these are safe challenges. They're going to take some risks and they're going to go out on a limb and do things they haven't typically done, or you'll see even more of their personalities come out.
I believe in you.
The kids go into their healing circles and they start to share their stories. They bring pictures and they'll share the picture of their loved one that they lost. And they'll one by one have the opportunity to tell in their words what's happened. For them to say, I've lost my dad or my mom died. And this is really warm to the heart, and the big buddies finally get a chance to see these kids taking these huge risks and sharing and opening up. And you really get to understand what are some core challenges the kids are having. And what they're doing to either help with that or what they're hiding from. Well, the idea is for them to have some healthy coping skills to take home with them.
17, 18, we're live!
Where kids do things in spurts, that's what we're trying to mimic at camp. We're trying to put them into high energy activities, and then we're going to process and we're going to talk about some of our feelings and some of the reasons why we're here, then right back into high energy activities. And again, the big buddies are with them throughout this entire journey for the weekend. What you're doing at camp is trying to create as many opportunities as possible for kids to express themselves in a healthy way. And the memorial service is an opportunity for these kids to either one at a time come up and do something in honor of, and whether it's a poem, a song, a silly joke that someone told them, whatever it might be, and the kids have an opportunity to do this in front of the entire camp with the parents present.
Children play on the shore each day.
The kids are super connected. They've been turbo bonding with everyone all weekend. Some kids are very anxious about leaving and not wanting to leave the bubble because it's been so supportive and they've learned so much and they're thriving here. And some kids are anxious to spread their wings and really apply some of the things that they've learned here.
There's such an incredible energy and positivity with everybody, and hearing the stories and having this place where everybody can share and be open and be welcomed into that and not be judged. The amount of bonding that happens in 2 days is amazing, you know? And you walk in complete strangers and you walk out feeling like a family, and it's pretty amazing.
I didn't want to come at all. I was doing everything I could to convince my mom to just let me go home. Jeff really actually pushed me to come. He made some bets. He said he'd arm wrestle me.
I was pulling every trick I knew out of the book, man.
He tried real hard, and I was a little grumpy for a couple minutes, and then, you know, Jeff really lightened my spirits and talked to some other people, and, you know, it was great. Everybody was really nice, and I ended up having an awesome time. I had a great time.
I don't know if I can say this. To be that for somebody is pretty amazing. So.